everybody, it is I, Anya. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a different video. I wish this was my idea, honestly, because this is such a good video idea. And in my opinion at least, and I hope you guys like it as well. This is called, this is called Favorite Shade in the Palette. It's kind of like a challenge a little bit. You basically get a whole bunch of palettes and you talk about your favorite shades in each palette, like your favorite one shade. If you had one shade that you loved in this palette, what shade would it be, and just stuff like that, you know? So I saw this video first on Angelica Nyqvist's channel, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, and Elle S's channel. I subscribed to both of them and I saw this video go up and I'm like, I like this idea a lot. And apparently they got this idea from, Georgia Harris and Spooky Lips and Fat Hips. Apparently I think they must have done a collab together as well, and this is the idea that they came up with for the collab. But anyway, great idea. I haven't seen anyone's video yet. I've watched part of Elle S's video, but I didn't see I didn't even see half of it because I kind of I wanted to just sit down and film. Honestly, today I didn't want to just watch YouTube videos all day, so I didn't want to spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos. I decided to actually do something, so I'm going to be doing my version of this video. I'm going to link everybody's video down below if you're interested in checking those out. They are some really great people. I especially love Angelica Nyqvist and Elle S. I love so many of their videos. If you love colorful makeup, check them out. But I'm just gonna get started. I mean, I have been talking for 2 minutes and I think that I should get into this video already. Okay, so first I want to talk about the Juvia's Place Saharan palette, and oh boy, this is such a beautiful palette. I've done a few videos on it and I've done a few tutorials because I realized that a lot of people have trouble working with this palette because you swatch it and love it and it's amazing, right? But sometimes this palette is a little bit difficult to use because it does, I mean, you have to really think about makeup looks. You have to really consider what makeup looks to create, and it's a little bit difficult sometimes to create a new and interesting makeup look, which is why I have created several looks with this palette on my channel. I've actually used, I think, all of these palettes on my channel already, and if you want to see tutorials on any of these palettes, I believe I'll be linking a few in the cards, but I have so many palettes here that I don't think I'll be able to link all of them, so I will link more in the description box. And also, if you see a palette that you like, go to my channels and just search the name of the palette, and I guarantee that you will find several videos with that palette. So anyway, this is the palette right here, and looking at it, I was like, I have several shades that I absolutely love in this palette, but the one I love probably the most is this palette right here, is this shade right here. This is called Wadabe. I don't know how to pronounce it. I always mess it up in videos, but it's just such this beautiful greeny gold color. I mean, I know that if I swatch everything I will run out of fingers in 2 seconds, but that's what it looks like. It looks just so incredibly beautiful. I absolutely love it. Let me give you a little bit of a zoom in. Focus, please. Focus! Focus. This is what it looks like. It is really... So, okay, this is what it looks like. It looks absolutely beautiful. I am in love with this shade. It just looks so pretty. And yes, I'm just going to tell you right now, I have very awkward swatching habits and I'm not always able to make good swatches. But anyway, I hope you forgive me because, you know, everyone has their flaws. So next up I have the Modern Renaissance palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is a little dirty because, I mean, this velvet thing is really nice, but it does get pretty dirty quite often. But this is what it looks like if you have not seen this palette yet. But I actually, now I don't use this part of the palette nearly as much as I used to. Now I tend to use these shades a lot, and this has been my favorite shade for a long time. And I think if I'm looking at this palette, I think that that's the shade that's closest to hitting pan. But this is Venetian Red, and it's absolutely beautiful. Wow, I look very bright. Okay, is that better? This is what it looks like, and it's a matte red. Well, I wouldn't really call it a matte. I'd call it more of a satin finish, and let me just try and blend it out for you a little bit more. But this is such a beautiful shade. I mean, it's just so yummy, and this is like what I would consider a fall tone shade. It's a very rich red, and it has like that satiny finish, and it just looks so beautiful, and I know that I will hit pan on that shade first. I can tell you that I will hit pan on it. Okay, so moving on to Subculture. This is also from Anastasia Beverly Hills. A lot of people really don't like this palette. I do like this palette, and I definitely say that the reason I like this palette so much is because of the really unique color story. You definitely don't see shades like this from bigger brands that often at all. And looking at this palette, like, there's just so many beautiful shades that I love. So this is a little bit difficult, not gonna lie. Like, it's very hard for me to find like a favorite shade, because I have so many different shades in this palette that I absolutely love, and so many that I'm very close to hitting pan on. But I think my favorite shade is Axis. It's just such a beautiful color. That is it right there. It's a very rich matte, like sort of like green color, and yes, this palette is a little bit powdery. I do have to say that the pigmentation is absolutely through the roof, but it's also a palette that you have to sort of like work with, and I definitely can't just take this palette and throw on colors and expect it to work. I do have to think about this palette because the colors, they tend to be a little bit powdery, and sometimes they tend to blend into each other, so I have to kind of work with the palette. But it is so worth it to me because personally, like, I love the colors in this palette. This is probably one of my favorite palettes that I own currently, so I love it. Okay, so this is the Lorac Unzipped Gold palette, and as you can see, they have a lot of beautiful shades in here. I actually mentioned it in my palette declutter, which if you haven't seen it, you should. I will try and link it in the cards. I don't know if I'll have space, honestly, but I think it's currently my most popular video. But in that video, I mentioned how really, like, the color story in this palette is really nice, but the only shade that I find myself using and I find myself actually liking is this shade called Unleashed right here. I mean, the other shades, they're not the best in my opinion. I mean, the other shades are kind of like for reasons mentioned in that video, but this is Unleashed, and this is probably like one of the best golds that I own because it's so smooth, and it's just so like, it glides on the skin, and it's just such a beautiful shade. I mean, it looks amazing, and sometimes you get like a beautiful shade and it swatches really nicely, but then when you put it on your eyes, it doesn't have that same effect. This shade does not have that. It is one of my favorite golds, like probably my most favorite gold that I own, and I don't use it that much in tutorials because it is just one shade in a palette, and I'm not crazy about the rest of this palette, but I love this shade because it's just so smooth, and I love it as like a pop in the center of my lid, especially that. It looks so beautiful. Okay, so moving on to this palette, I think that I must have used this palette a lot more often than I thought, because this is one of my dirtiest palettes, because I tend to really like a lot of the shades in this palette. This is actually the KKW Beauty X Mario palette, and Mario palette, and this is what the color story looks like inside. So I know what you're thinking. I know that you probably think that I like this shade the most, and that's actually not true at all. I actually have a blue in another palette that I really love that I will be showing you later, but my favorite shade in this palette is this color right here. I actually really I used to do a lot of pottery, and I used to work with red clay. This shade is like exactly like red clay. It is so beautiful, and it doesn't swatch that impressively. Like, I mean, if you look at this arm and if you look at this swatch, it doesn't look that impressive, but when you put it on your eyes, I'm actually wearing a little bit of it today, like on my outer corner, but when you put it on your eyes, it looks beautiful. It looks amazing. Like, that is my most used shade in the palette. Not gonna lie, it is. Moving on, I have the Stila Eyes Are the Window Shadow palette. This is what it looks like right here. It is a pretty basic looking palette, but when I think of this palette, like, the color that really makes me excited is this color right here. I believe that it is called Substance, and it's kind of like, it reminds me of like sort of like rusty gray color. It's a metallic and it doesn't have a lot of like reflex in it. It looks pretty basic, but when you put it on your eyes, and especially if you use it wet, like it makes your brown eyes, if you have brown eyes, it makes them pop, especially when you use it with a black and you sort of like blend things in a little bit. That's when it looks so beautiful. So I love this color in the palette. It looks very unassuming when it's swatched. I will tell you that a lot of my favorite colors look kind of iffy when I swatch them, but when you put them on your eyes, oh boy, that's when the magic happens. This is the Mar palette from Colourpop. This is one of my newer palettes that I have so far, and this is what it looks like on the inside. And my favorite shade in here is definitely the blue. This color right here is actually one of the reasons why I bought this palette, and usually I'm not that person, but it's just such a beautiful matte blue. It looks beautiful, and this is what it looks like. Like, come on, that's one swatch, not a lot of blending, and it looks so beautiful. This is like my favorite matte blue that I own. It is amazing and I love it so much. Urban Decay Naked Smoky. I also like this palette a lot. It's a pretty good palette in my opinion. So if you love cool tones and you're looking at something like the Naked Heat and you're like, I want something just like this, but I want it to be cool toned, the Naked Smoky is a great option. My favorite shade in here is called Dagger. This is what it looks like. It is like a very satin blue gray color. It has a little bit of a blue, but it's a gray. I kind of want to swatch it next to this shade so you can sort of compare. See, this is like a more truer gray color, and this is like a blue gray. Do you see? I don't think I own anything like this color, and I absolutely love it because it's just one of those colors that, again, really makes my eyes pop, and it's just such a flattering shade, and I definitely love this palette. But that color is just, that color makes me excited. Next up is Huda Beauty. This is a Smoky Obsessions palette, and this is a palette that it's just amazing, like, and I love it. And there's so many beautiful metallic shades in this palette, and my favorite is this color right here. I mean, it's a silver color. This is the best silver color that I own that is in like a powder finish, because usually the silver colors that I've tried are only like this pigmented if they come in a cream format, but this is a powder and it looks so beautiful, and this is what it looks like dry. So when it's wet, it looks so good. I use it on my inner corner, I use it in the center of my lid. I've done so many videos with this palette, and I use that shade in a lot of the videos. Moving on, I have the Pinky Rose Bright Lights palette. I've done a lot of tutorials on this one as well, and my favorite shade, the shade that makes me excited, is called Tiki. This is it right here. It is such like a really pretty shade. It's a matte, first off, and I like it because it's like this pinky sort of like reddy color, and it kind of like, it looks so pretty, and it looks like, again, a lot better on the eyes than it's swatching right here. Let me sort of try and layer it, because, I mean, I like a lot of these colors, but they don't swatch a lot. Like, they don't swatch as good as I'd like them to. And that's really common with a lot of colors. They don't swatch as well as they may look on the eyes, but this color is one of my favorites, and I love it. Okay, so moving on, I have the Jaclyn Hill palette from Morphe, and this is what it looks like right here. And this was hard, and I feel like my favorite shade in this palette sort of like changes quite often. I mean, I do like to use this palette a lot, and I like to use it for different looks, and I've created like very dark and moody and dramatic looks with it, and I've created some more light, warm, more minimal looks as well. But I think that my favorite shade in this palette currently is this one right here. I believe it is called Obsessed, and it's just such a nice pretty shade that I love for highlighting my inner corner. It has a little bit of coolness in it, and it's not really warm, which I really love, but it's an interesting highlight shade, and I really love it a lot. So this is my favorite shade currently from this palette. Like I said, it's always changing. I mean, sometimes it's like a darker shade in the palette, sometimes it's a matte, sometimes, you know, it changes. So, but currently that is my favorite color in this palette. Okay, so next I want to talk about Sleek. So this is my Sleek I Divine Snapshots palette. This is such a beautiful, colorful palette, and currently my favorite shade in this palette is definitely this orange color. I don't know if I've used this in a tutorial or not. I'm not sure, but this is such a beautiful color. I definitely should use it more often. I haven't really, yeah, it's just, like, this reminds me of like little oranges. Like what, mandarins, I think. But this is such a beautiful shade. It's a metallic, it's an orange, it's very warm, and it's bright. You know, like, it looks amazing. Like, I love it so much, and I don't use it as often as I should, but I should. It's so beautiful. This is a hard palette. This is hard. To choose one favorite shade in this palette is definitely not easy. This is probably the hardest in this entire video to choose from, because I love this palette. When I got this palette, I definitely did not expect to love this palette as much as I did, but when I got this palette and I opened it and I started swatching it, I was so excited because there's so many beautiful shades in this palette. And like I said, I mean, I can definitely say that my favorite shades in this palette change very often, but currently I would definitely say that my favorite one is this one right here called Fazo. I have used this before in tutorials, and I typically wear this in my inner corner, and it looks so sexy. Like, oh, this is okay. Honestly, I should be watching this video with headphones in because I love this so much. It's like this beautiful duochrome color, and it looks almost kind of unassuming when you just look at it like that, but it looks so beautiful when layered on top of other colors. It looks amazing, and I think I filmed a look. I'm not sure if I put it up yet, but I've definitely filmed a look where I did like an entire like purple eye, and I ended up putting this all over my entire lid, and it looked fantastic because it has like that slight like shift to it, and it's just so beautiful. I love it so much, and I love this palette. Okay, so moving on to something a little bit more basic, but still, like, this is a palette that surprised me. Like, I love this palette so much, and I love to use it on others. This is such a beautiful palette, but like, I can definitely say that my favorite shade in here is definitely this color right here. I'm not sure what it's called. I think it's called Roseberry, and I mean, it looks like a basic color, and I guess it is, but it's like, okay, this is one of those colors, it's a color for somebody who doesn't like colors. If you don't feel comfortable using colors, you should start out with this because it looks so beautiful. It's very flattering on a variety of different eye colors, and I love it so much. It looks beautiful. Whenever I'm using this palette, I use that color almost every time. And sometimes I'm using like other palettes, and I like to just break this palette out just to use that color because it is so beautiful. Last but certainly not least, I have this Masquerade palette from Juvia's Place. Oh, okay. This is so good. I love this palette so much. I've done so many tutorials on this palette. I think I've mentioned this before, but my favorite shade in this entire palette is Giza. It's like this color right here, and I know that you're surprised. I know you're thinking like, wow, Anya, you love colors so much, but you're choosing like the most boring looking color in this entire palette. No, it is fantabulous. It is pretty much the whitest, brightest highlight color I own. If I have any kind of look and I want to like really just make it pop, I use this color because it's just so beautiful, and when you put it on the eyes especially, it can really make your eyeshadow look like that much more like really vibrant and really beautiful, and I love it. So like whenever I'm doing a look with that palette, I always go in with that highlight shade, and I'm horny. 15 palettes were in this video, and I love them all to varying degrees, but these are definitely my favorite shades from these palettes. I hope you enjoyed this video. Man, this was long, and I hope it wasn't too rambly, but yeah, if you want to hear more about these palettes, be sure to go to my channel, search about these palettes. I have videos on every single one of these palettes, or at least including every single one of these palettes. Also, go to my eyeshadow palette declutter video. That is a video where I really went I went into depth with a lot of the eyeshadow palettes that I own, and I even mentioned ones that I didn't mention in this video. These were all the exciting palettes that I currently really like that I wanted to mention. I didn't want to talk about every single palette in my collection because I felt like that would be a little bit too much, and that would make a very long and somewhat boring video. I just wanted to show you guys the highlights. But if you want to see more palettes that I absolutely love, check out my declutter video down below or in the cards. Yeah, the cards are here. But yeah, I'm going to go and wash my hands now because clearly I need to, otherwise I'll be getting eyeshadow all over this little jacket that I have. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.